So let's go ahead and get into it here. Here's your guided warm-up, my party people. I want you to go ahead. Notice how we have some different numbers here. You got some negatives here. You got some spooky stuff happening. But don't worry. Give it your best shot. I want to see what you can do. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and let that person in. And then let me go ahead and start a timer and let you tackle one or two of these questions, maybe all of them. But I want to see what you can do here. I'm going to put a timer up, and I'm going to see what you can do in these 2 minutes. So again, just try them out, do your thing. And if you don't finish them all, don't worry. Pick the one that you think is the easiest for you. Try it out, and we'll go over all 4 of them before moving into these 2-step equations. Let's go ahead and get into it. Again, I'm going to go just slightly faster. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You see, I've been fielding the questions all class long. Feel free to ask. I got you. So number 1, what you should notice is that, again, you're trying to get this n by itself. Another way that you might want to look at this, and this has been a very approachable way to look at this, especially if you're learning this for the first time. If it helps you to use little boxes to show the order working forward, then you can more clearly see how it can work backwards. And this really applies to more than one step, but I'm going to start really shaping and warming you up to this now. So for example, I'm trying to get that n by itself, that right there. And what I notice is that if I'm trying to get that n by itself, well, hey, buddy, I got this 30 in the way that's currently dividing. And so if you want to think about equations like this, feel free to look at it like this. Feel free to think about equations as kind of unwrapping the present.
My ASVAB party people, hope you're enjoying the math party so far. Just wanted to remind you before we continue that we do have a way for you to practice everything you need to get the ASVAB score that you want. Because in our math boot camp, we have everything you need in terms of recorded lessons to go through the entire concept. On top of that, we have guided practice, printable worksheets, and speed drills for each and every single mini concept, from adding and subtracting decimals to fractions, distance, rate, time, word problems, proportions, everything you need. It's all lined up for you, and it makes learning as easy as possible, and we make updates to this course on a weekly basis at no extra cost to you. So I really urge you and implore you, go ahead, check out the link in the description for the Math Bootcamp, which is also included in our full program, and we make it as affordable as possible. So go ahead, click the link in the description to learn about this more. That way you know exactly what's available to you to raise your score. I don't want you to feel test anxiety. I don't want you to feel like you're lost and you're just hoping for the best. I want you to take control of your studying, and the ASVAB All-Access Program and the Math Bootcamp are the exact ways to do it. So if you have any questions, my contact info is also in the description. But before we continue, please check it out so you know exactly what's available to you. That way you can feel confident that there is a solution for you. Let's get back to the video though. Let's ace the ASVAB.
Order of operations is building the present. Solving equations, working backwards, unwrapping the present. So you're trying to unwrap this box right here and get down to the end. So the outermost part, it says, oh, divide 30. So if you're opening a present, you're doing the opposite of wrapping it. The opposite of dividing 30, you would go ahead and multiply by 30 on both sides here. And again, if you were like, Coach, I get it, I didn't need to see that, don't worry. When it comes to these 2-step equations, I definitely will be thanked, I hope. So the 30s cancel here. We have n equals 30 times 2, and that'll be 60. And that will be 60. Yeah, should be all good there. So number 2, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. So we have p minus 16 equals number 33. Is anyone nervous about this one? Is anyone at all nervous about this one? Be honest. If anybody here is nervous, see a lot of no's, which proud of that. But if there are anybody nervous here, hey, no worries, Prince. Oh, hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining. Hey, I remember talking to you last week. Yeah, go ahead and hit me up. Shoot me a text. Thanks for coming. So, cool. So anybody here who's saying yes, which I saw maybe like 2 or 3 people say yes. For those of you saying yes that you're nervous about this, are you nervous about the process or are you nervous about the calculation? Yeah, because of the negative, right? Oh, when I'm adding negatives, not really sure. But notice, that's not the concept. That's just part of the action. You need to learn how to handle negatives. Do your thing. Practice with negatives. Here, it doesn't matter about if you know how to do negatives or not. You should dang well know what to do in this situation. Opposite operation. I see that I'm trying to get the p by itself right here. And I got to go ahead and get rid of that negative 16 or that minus 16, excuse me. So to get rid of that minus 16, I'm going to add 16 to both sides. Yeah, if you get to this part and you're like, oh crap, I forgot how to add with negatives. That's fine. But the process, you should know. I got to get rid of that minus 16 to get p by itself, add 16 to both sides. And once you do that, boom, that cancels here, and you get p equals, and just for those of you who forgot or need a quick refresher, I'm not going to explain it again, but just remember that if you're adding opposite signs, like a plus 16 with a minus 33, just subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. Because you're basically saying, go 33 down, 16 up, they're going in opposite directions. So cancel out what you can cancel out and leave the rest. 33 minus 16 is 17, but it would be negative 17 because you got negative 33, positive 16. You're going more down than up. So here that would be negative 17. And again, if that explanation did not make sense, don't worry. I'm not here to explain negatives all day, but I can point you to my YouTube videos. If you're in the program, you know we have that whole section. You know I'm talking about the program a lot, but it's because it works. So make sure you're always in there if you have it. Exactly, Rose. Exactly. And so there we are with number 2. So yeah, so Delilah, great question. So again, it's plus 16 because you're doing the opposite operation. So you see that we in the way of the p, it's minus 16. If you want to get rid of a minus 16, if you want to work backwards from taking away 16, you want to add 16. It's all about opposite operations. I got you. Number 3. Did this one make anybody nervous? Teal, yeah. Yeah, this is the one. This one did me in here. We got some no's there, more yeses. Okay, well, let's check it out. Let's see who is nervous. So the way that we want to take a look at this is, everybody, that 1 right there, currently, right now, currently, as you look at it, is that 1 being added or subtracted? Currently, the 1 is the 1 being added or subtracted on that left side. Not subtracted, it's added. It's added. It's being added. Let me explain why. Again, the reasoning is so important here. It's being added. So we have 1 minus p. Question, everybody, what's being subtracted? What is being subtracted? When we read this, we read it left to right. We have 1 minus what? P. P is the thing that's being subtracted. That 1 is just a 1. That's a positive 1. That's a plus 1 sitting there. Another way you could look at this, if you wanted to, you could look at this as negative p plus 1 equals 9. You got to make sure if you're going to move terms around, bring the signs with them. Like 1 plus 2 equals 2 plus 1, right? If it's 1 minus 2, that's the same as negative 2 plus 1. Bring the signs with you. Brief PSA there. So if we wanted to get rid of that 1, what should we do to both sides, everybody? What should we do to both sides? Be specific there, Kai, Seth, Rose, be specific. Subtract both sides by 1. Thank you, Smalls. Appreciate that. Yep, exactly. We'll subtract 1 here, subtract 1 there. Once we do that, notice that's a positive 1, that's a negative 1. Yes, it will cancel out. It should not be adding 1, no. And so what we have now is negative p, 9 minus 1. I'm so bad at math, everybody. What is that again? Appreciate that. So negative p equals 8. So with that said, what do we do now? This looks a little weird, right? This looks a little weird. Is this the final answer? Is it P equals 8? Right, we can't keep it negative. It has to be the variable, not a negative variable, just the variable. Right, so what do we do here? And so the answer here, everybody, is this. Like, there's a million different things you can do. There really is a million things you can do. Everybody, think about it like this. If you have negative P, if I divided by a -1, nothing happens to the P. The negative goes away. So let me just show this 3 different times here. I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can think about this. This is really all the same thing, man. It really is. It absolutely is the same thing. Let me just actually literally show you 3 separate times what you could be doing. So here, negative P equals 8. One way you can tackle this is this. You can divide both sides by -1. Because everybody, P divided by 1, is it true that P divided by 1 is still P? Right? P divided by 1 is still P. Nothing happens there. That's fine. But look at the beautiful thing that happens here. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. And that'll cancel out. That will cancel out, giving you P equals 8 divided by -1. 8 divided by 1 is still 8. But when you divide a positive by a negative, it becomes negative. So here, what you could have done is, yeah, you can divide both sides by the -1 to get rid of the negative on the P. That's one way to deal with it. Here's another way to deal with it, everybody. Here's another way. Another way is this. Let me show you the second way. Everyone, is it true that I could multiply both sides by a -1 to get rid of that negative? Could I do that? Could I multiply a -1 right there and a -1 right there? Could I do that? Yeah, that would work. A negative, let me actually just keep moving this away so you're not getting confused by all this mumbo jumbo. And then let me just take an orange little slicer there, and right there. Okay, so coming right there, yeah, a negative times a negative, that's a positive. That's gone. Bye. Okay, cool. So that would just be a positive P. And then 8 times -1, that'll be -8. Same exact answer. If you wanted to get rid of a negative, really what I'm saying is, if you know how to think about it in more than one way, you can start doing negatives in your head. So for example here, okay, you can divide both sides by -1. That'll get it positive P. You can times -1 on both sides. Yeah, that'll give you a positive P. Another thing is this. Just before I do this, I don't want to blow your minds, but a question, everybody. True or false, whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. Right? That's a true. Or amen. So then my follow-up question is, if I change the sign of one side, could I just change the sign of the other as well? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. If I change the sign on one side, I can change the sign on the other. So if I have a negative P and I want to make it a positive P, yeah, change it. If I have a -8, it has to go to negative. Or if I have a +8, change it to -8. Yeah. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. And that also counts for changing the signs of both sides. Because technically what you're doing is just multiplying both sides by a negative or dividing. Either way, it's the same thing. But that's just a shortcut way to think about it. If you wanted to change the signs of both sides, you could. Absolutely could. Yeah, for sure, Jocelyn. So right after this one, I got you. So don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. So here, this last one here, -2 equals P minus 6. Last one here. So really, again, the process should make total sense to you. Whether negatives aren't your strong suit or not, that's a different question. So here what we have is, well, we're going to get that P by itself. We're going to have to go ahead and understand that we see P minus 6. P minus 6, get rid of that 6. You're going to add 6 to both sides. So if I add 6 here, add 6 there, that cancels. And then so you have -2 plus 6. -2 plus 6 is the same as 6 minus 2. Same thing. Same thing. So what's 6 minus 2, everybody? Right, it's gonna be 4. That's gonna be 4. 4 equals P. And there you go. And so here are your answers, my party people. Let me go ahead and just zoom out really quick to give you a good look. So your answers are, for number 1, 60, number 2, negative 17, number 3, negative 8, and number 4, positive 4. So how do you guys do? How do you feel about those? Good. Good, good, good. Perfect. Yes, for sure. They're going to be harder ones. And I'm going to go ahead and start warming you up to the idea of tackling these harder ones. I want to make sure I give you questions that are reasonable to expect. So I am going to, okay, so what I prepared for you guys today are the harder type of two-step, which either way, you'll be fine. But I'm going to go ahead and actually show you with the more direct ones that you're more likely to see. So Jocelyn, here you go. Let you take the screenshot of this one here. Go ahead, Jocelyn, and anybody else who missed the previous page, go ahead and do that there. I'll give you 10 seconds. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a blank screen, and I'm going to talk about some of these more fundamental ones before I show you these crazier ones. Yeah, you're welcome, Jocelyn. I got you. So boom. All right. So again, we have this next page coming up, but I'm going to, before I show you these, I'm actually going to save you. Let me go ahead and paste that here. I'm going to give you guys a shot at doing some more fundamental ones before we get into the crazier ones. So just ignore this. Ignore these. Okay. Let's go ahead and just start with a very sensical one. So here, Seth, go ahead and text me. Actually, I don't do phone calls, not anymore, because I have way too many students. But with that, let's take a look at this problem here. Let's take a look at 2x plus 3 equals 13. Okay, so has anyone ever in their entire existence hating math or doing math seen a question that looks somewhat similar to that? Right? This is not a super unfamiliar problem. This is a pretty reasonable one, pretty reasonable. So let's learn how to take care of it, okay? So let me show you. But before I show you, a word from our sponsors. No, I'm kidding. So before I show you, remind me really quick again, rule or that main like non-negotiable number 1 with equations was whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Now, number 2, what did I say there? The art of solving equations is the art of what? All right, working backwards. It's the art of working backwards. Now, we have to really take that to heart, okay? We have got to take that to heart, because what we're doing here is we're going to go ahead and prove that if you know your order of operations, you're good. Like seriously, you're good. You're good. So let's just take it nice and slow here, because for the next about 15 minutes, I'm going to be showing you how to do these problems. Then I'm going to show you how to do some, what you might call sickening problems, but it's going to be the same exact principle. So please pay very close attention to this. If you would prefer to just watch me do the whole problem and kind of sit and just talk and engage with me, please do. And then just take a screenshot of it at the end. Sure. If you're more equipped to just follow every step and write it down, again, do your thing. But my recommendation is put your pencil down. Let's talk about this so you can really understand what's going on, because this is a 2-step equation here. So here we go. We have 2x plus 3 equals 13. But again, like I said, we're working backwards from the order of operations. So what we're going to do is this. We're not going to talk about what's the first step, what's the second step. No, what we're going to say is, what is the first thing happening to the variable? What's the next thing happening to the variable, all the way to the last thing? And we're going to start with that last thing and work backwards. It's kind of like saying, hey, to build this present in the box, put the foam, close the box, wrap it up. Working backwards would start not with the foam, it would be with unwrapping, because you can't get to the foam unless you unwrap first. Instead of closing the box, open the box. Instead of putting in the foam, take out the foam. And instead of placing the present, You then take out the present to reveal what it is. That's the idea here. We're working backwards. So let's understand the forward steps, how this was built, so we know how to go backwards. So from a very simple analogy to a more complicated idea, let's get started. So let's identify what we're looking for, everybody. What is the letter that we are trying to solve for? Hit me. Tia, that's right. Sharp right X, we're looking for the X. Let me actually highlight that. We're looking for X.
Really quick ASVAB party people, while we continue this video, if you're enjoying it, which at this point, if you're watching, I know you are, please remember to like this video, comment your favorite part, and subscribe to the channel. That way you can help us spread the word about helping people raise their ASVAB scores just like we are. Let's keep getting the job done. Let's get back to the video. Appreciate you.
Now, what do you notice is happening on the same side as X? I notice a 2 and I notice a 3. Everybody, which one of those things is first engaging with the X? Which one of those is most attached to the X? The 2, right? That 2X, right? It's attached. It's literally attached. So I'm going to draw a box right there. These two are mingling first and foremost. Then after that 2, and well, first of all, what operation is that with the 2, everybody? Just remind me again. Right, that 2 and that X are being multiplied. So once we get to that step, I automatically know, oh yeah, I'm going to divide by 2 at some point. At some point. But remember, we're trying to figure out everything on this side here. So what happens after you do 2X, everybody? What happens after 2X on that left side of the equation? What happens after that? So no, I'm asking what's currently happening. Like, what do you see physically happening right now? Small as you had it. So first thing that you see with the X is that it's being multiplied by 2. The next thing that you see with the X is that you're adding 3. So you guys see where I'm coming from, right? You see where I'm coming from? I'm just telling you to pay attention to what is currently happening. Pay attention to what is currently happening. Because first you multiply by 2, and then we're adding the 3. So the order of operations says, whatever X is, times 2, then add 3. If we're working backwards, that last step was add 3. Again, we wrapped the box. That was the last step. The last step here, add 3. Work backwards. The opposite of wrapping a box is unwrapping the box. The opposite of adding 3 is what? Don't get lazy, everybody. Everybody's saying subtract 3, but where? How? Who? Cuándo? ¿A dónde? Come on. Right. Subtract 3 on both sides. Subtract 3 on both sides. So long story short, for anybody who's confused on what's going on currently, when it comes to 2 or more step equations, again, it's working backwards. If you know the forward in terms of what's happening to the variable, you basically start with the last step, the last thing that you see. In this case, you would times 2 first. If you, whatever you knew what X is, if you knew what X was, you would multiply by 2 and then add 3. So since the plus 3 was the last thing to happen, that's the first thing we're working backwards on. And so what we would do is subtract 3 on both sides to start off. Once I do that, yeah, Jessica, you've been on the money. So first thing is subtract that 3 to get rid of that, to open that last step up, because now we have that 2X left. Everybody, 13 minus 3, hit me. That is 10. 2X equals 10 now. And then the last step here is going to be to get rid of the 2. Everybody, what's the opposite of having 2X? How do I get rid of that 2? Lewis, Indy, thank you for being complete there in that phrasing. Thank you, Kira, thank you. Smalls, again, being very specific there, because the more specific you are in practice, the less jumbled you feel on the test. So right there, there's 2X. Divide by 2 on both sides. And you get X equals 5 for this specific problem. So again, it's more important than ever, everybody, more important than ever. When you're dealing with multi-step equations, so 2 or more steps, you really, after you clean things up in the first step, which we didn't have to do here, but once you get into the actual solving, it's all about working backwards. We see that we had 2x plus 3. The furthest thing away from the x was that plus 3. So that's what I wanted to tackle first. That's what I wanted to get rid of first, not the 2. Because remember, let me actually show you this to show you why. Because some people might ask, Coach, why can't you just divide by 2 first? Here's why. If you do 2x plus 3 equals 13, if you were to divide by 2, remind me, everybody, if you're dividing by 2, where are you dividing by 2? On both what? Both what? Both sides. Both sides. What does that mean? Well, look at this. If I wanted to divide by 2 on both sides first, okay, sure, 13 divided by 2, it looks ugly, but we can divide that. That's possible. But what did I say? Both sides. It's not this. No, it's this. It's that. And so, sure, that 13 divided by 2, that'll be 6.5. Don't worry about that decimal. Don't worry about that. What I want you to worry about is a lot of people thinking that this will just turn into x plus 3. That is false because you're dividing the 3 by 2 and you're dividing that 2 by 2. So that would end up actually being x plus 3 over 2, which is 1.5. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys wouldn't like to see a bunch of decimals while you solve. Exactly, that was more complicated. Again, we want to know the order of operations because you could solve it like that, but it would be so much more painful. Is anybody here seeing what I'm trying to say? Work backwards from the order of operations. Work backwards from the order of operations. Right on, Jacory. Work backwards from the order of operations every single time, all right? Every single time. Krista, I got you. No worries. So let's go ahead and get into it here. I want to give you guys a chance to practice a couple of more, okay? Around 7:35, we will be moving into this vomit-inducing swirl of numbers over here. We'll learn how to solve these, and I promise you I'll help you get this done. But I want to make sure you understand these more tolerable ones before we continue. So here, I'm going to move this down. And I'm going to give you a couple of more examples here. I'm going to try. Let's try this one here. Let's say we have and then another problem over here. So this is number 1. And I'm going to give you another one here, number 2. I would like you to try this with my party people. Please go ahead and go with this. Let's say we have so go ahead and try these 2 here. Give it a shot. And I'm going to start this timer here. I'm going to give you, let me see, 7:26. I'll give you 3 minutes here to try either or both of these, and just give it a shot. Just give it a shot here. After about 30 seconds, I'll start giving some hints. Okay, Jose and Pedro, I see you. Okay, so to give you a hint on the first one, for those of you looking at this one again, you're trying to solve for the x right there. And there's nothing else going on, right? So one thing you can do here is understand that the first thing that's happening is 7 times x, and then that plus 16 happens after the fact. So the furthest thing that happens is the plus 16, so that's the first thing you want to attack. Again, just notice the order of operations there. So for that first one, if you're stuck on it, what you can do to start off is by subtracting 16 on both sides. Let me use purple for that. And once you have that, that's what eliminates the 16 here. And then you have yourself 7x equals 21. So once you have 7x equals 21, so whoever was stuck before, do you know what to do now? If you were stuck before, do you know what to do now? That's right, Gene. Yeah. And so if you were stuck, what should we do? What's our next step here? Be specific. Be specific. Yeah, that's right. We want to divide both sides by 7 and we'll be good. And once we do that, boom, both are gone. And we're left with x equals 3 for the first one. Yep, that is right. That is right. Now we're going to be going into number 2 coming up in a moment here. I'm going to give you 20 more seconds here to see what you got. For sure, Jessica does. So time's up here. Time's up. So yes or no, or first of all, the first question, yes or no, did you feel confident doing number 1? Yes or no? Did you feel confident doing number 1? And I'm talking before I showed you how to do it. Okay, good. Good. It means that I can keep my job, right? So hopefully for the most of us here. Alicia, no worries, and welcome back, Alicia. Nice to have you back. Just not good at mental. Hey, this isn't mental math. I mean, it's more so understanding the steps, because the first step is subtracting 16. So then you pause. Okay, what's 37 minus 16? Cool, got that. Then once you have the next step, it's okay. What do I do now? Divide by 7, and then you just do that. You do it and you do your thing. You know, if it takes a little bit longer, that's fine. If it takes a little bit longer, that's fine. Let me get rid of the timer here and let's get back into this. Number 2. Now, number 2, we have 20 minus 4x equals 12. Now, I want to actually invite you guys to think about this in more ways than just one, okay? So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to just copy this real quick. I'm going to paste it again. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just eliminate all of this work that we just did, because I really would love to show you how to do this problem in more than one way. Because a lot of the times people get confused by this and they really get stuck. You know, they really think that negatives are the end of the world, which they're not. I mean, they're really not, but I want to show you how to handle this with grace. So here's a regular normal way to do this. So everybody, the first way, you know, I'm looking at the left side over there. It's the same problem, but it doesn't matter. We have 20 minus 4x equals 12. Now, when you look at this, you see that we're trying to get that x by itself. Okay, the first thing that's happening to this thing is we are multiplying by not a 4, you're multiplying by a -4. And then the next thing that you see outside of that is that you just have the 20 sitting there. So that 20 is being added there. Remember earlier how I said, everybody, 1 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 1. If you needed to see this in a better way to know that the 20 is on the outside, and that's the first thing you should do, remember that 20 minus 4x is the same as -4x plus 20. Does that help you see it any better? Does that help you see it any better? In terms of, again, we're looking for that x. We have -4 multiplied by the x, and then we have the 20 on the outside. right? Because if you see it that way, right, a lot of us can take a look at that and say, oh, okay, get rid of the 20 first, subtract 20 first on both sides. Okay, we can do that. That's possible. And if we do that, well, let's see what's up. Because we have the 20s eliminate. Right on. And so we subtract the 20 on both sides and we got ourselves negative 4x equals, and then now you have to think about what 12 minus 20 is. Remember, everybody, 12 minus 20 is the same as 20 minus 12. It's just the opposite direction. It's going to be negative because you're subtracting more than you have. You're basically asking what's the difference between 12 and 20, but it's going to be negative because, again, you're taking away the bigger number. So here, 20 minus 12 is 8, but it would be negative 8 because you're subtracting the 20. And so that would be negative 8 right there. And the last step, what would it be? Well, we just have to go ahead here and we'll just take care of business. We are going to divide both sides by negative 4 to get the x by itself because it's negative 4 times x. So we need to get rid of it by dividing. Exactly, Jessica, thanks for the tip there, that reminder. Remember that a negative divided by a negative is a what, everybody? Who's paying attention? Negative divided by a negative is that positive. That's right. Booyah. So we have that. That cancels here and there and there. And we have x equals 2. And there's your answer. X equals 2. Yeah, this lesson will be saved. It will be posted on our website for our program members first thing tomorrow morning. So by 10 a.m. Eastern or 7 a.m. Pacific time. So there's that. Okay. Now, Vivi, I'm confused it with the addition rule. Oh, I see what you mean. So you mean like if we would have saw like negative 20 plus 12? It's actually the same thing. No, Chandra, you really don't have to rearrange it. You really don't have. Oh, you mean the division. I got you. I got you. So the thing is, I want to show you a separate way to do this that honestly is a very understandable way if you've been paying attention to what I've been saying here today. So first things first, everybody. I know some of us may have gotten uncomfortable right here with the 12 minus the 20 there. I know for sure some of us got uncomfortable there. And then we had to deal with dividing by negatives. I know that can be really frustrating, right? I know that can be a little annoying. So let me point something out to you. Really quick, everybody, true or false, just to remind ourselves, just help me out. It's true that 20 minus 4x is the same thing as negative 4x plus 20, right? Same thing, right? Before I continue, same thing. 1 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 1. Just make sure to bring the sign with you, right? Okay. And let me make sure I don't miss this question over here. Yeah, so iPhone, if you're still iffy on where you subtract or add, that's where that comes in. Again, you got to make sure you get that practice in terms of understanding your negatives and regular numbers, because the process is very clear here. It's just the opposite operation. Bring the sign with you. So we'll get into more of that. I got you. But let me just continue here and just show you this little shortcut method. Everybody, when you're looking at the negative 4x, is it true that at some point you're going to have to divide or get that negative out? Is it true that at some point you're going to have to get rid of that negative that's on the x? And for those of us following with the lag, I see you guys saying, yeah, but I'm going to ask one more time because, again, this is way too important to show you a shortcut here. Is it true that at some point you're going to have to get rid of that negative on the x? Okay, it's true. We proved it. Like we know that at some point, and if we're looking at the solution that we just did, yeah, we are going to have to get rid of that negative on the x. So think of it like this. Remember earlier how I said, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other? Well, guess what? If I wanted to change the sign on both sides, I could. Just make sure to change the sign on everything on each side. Here's what I mean. I can do this. Change the sign, both sides. And what you end up getting is positive 4x minus 20 equals negative 12. This might make the problem a little easier for some of us. It might, because when you take the proper steps and you continue, add 20 on both sides, instantly, you might be able to tell negative 12 plus 20 is the same as 20 minus 12. Ah, that's 8. That's 8. So we have 4x equals 8. And I know the next step is divide that 4 on both sides, and we get x equals 2. So it's literally the same thing. It's literally the same thing. But if you know that you're going to be dealing with negatives and you'd rather not, you could get rid of those negatives right there in the first step. I'm not telling anybody here that you're forced to do this, not forcing anybody to do anything, but I'm just pointing out that there are more than one way to do any given problem. So with you, everybody, which way did you prefer? Way 1 or method number 2? Which way did you prefer? And again, be honest. If it's number 1, it's number 1. It's fine for you. Be honest. And if it's both, hey, both. Yeah, no more hoping for the best. We can get this done. Okay, great. All right, so let's get to the next. And no worries, Asia. If it's a little confusing for number 2, I'm happy you understand number 1. I'm happy that you do. Now, I want to go ahead and get to the elephant in the room, because earlier I showed you these. Who here thinks that they can do these right now? Negative. And no worries, no worries, no worries. I want to teach you how to do these, because again, like it's all really, quite honestly, it's all the same idea. It's following the same sets of rules, the same steps. It really, truly is. So let's remind ourselves one more time. Everybody, whatever you do to one side, thank you, Dominic. Yep, we do to the other. So one more time. So whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Now, number 2, important rule number 2. That rule was solving equations is the art of working backwards. So again, you're working backwards and you're working on both sides. So for anybody here looking at this, thinking that you don't know how to do this, that's completely false. For the simple reason being that, look, you know how to do this. It's just a situation that you haven't seen yet, but you do know what to do. Okay? You do know what to do. It's just like learning CPR. When you're learning CPR, you're practicing on a test dummy the entire time. But when it happens in reality, training kicks in. If it's a real person, it's not a dummy, but it's the same process. Do what you've been practicing. So that's why I'm really reiterating, these main steps, these fundamentals. So let's take a look at this first one here. Let me zoom in to not distract you. Notice these are both different problems too. These are both very different. But let me just show you how applying techniques the right way gets you all the way through this. B plus 5 over 7 equals 3. Okay. Well, let's first point out what we're trying to solve for, everybody. What is it that we're trying to solve for again? Right, B. We're trying to solve for B. Okay, let's do ourselves a favor right there. B. Great, mucho gusto. So there we are, there's B. Now, everybody, what is the first thing happening, currently happening to B? Is the first thing happening adding 5? Or is the first thing that's happening to the B is that it's being divided by 17? Or by 7, excuse me. What is the first thing happening to the B? Notice how some of us are disagreeing. Half of us are saying adding 5, half of us are saying divide by 7, right? Notice how that's very interesting. Very interesting. Now, let me go ahead. I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is. I'm going to show you what the right answer is. Everybody, quick question. If we replace the B with a number, let's go ahead and say, let's go ahead and say, I don't know, 9. Let's try 9 out. 9. I'm going to include everything else again, right? Plus 5 over 7. Everybody, if you have that 9 there, what's the first thing that you would do? Would you do the 9 plus the 5 or the 9 divided by 7? What's the first thing that you would do? Doesn't it seem a little more clear now? The first thing we would do is we would add that 9 and the 5. I want to make this very clear, everybody. When you have a fraction, one thing over another, what you're looking at is you're looking at the whole numerator divided by the whole denominator. That's what a fraction is. I just want to remind you of these fundamentals that you know, right? You know this. When it comes to a fraction, you have the entire top being divided by the entire bottom. So if you're trying to go ahead and kind of map out the steps, here's what's actually happening, everybody. So I just want to remind you. Oh, no, I'm just pretending. So Krista, I'm just pretending. So for anybody who's confused, what I'm trying to point out first, and thanks for letting me know, Krista, what I'm trying to show and what I'm trying to prove to you is this. If you're looking at a question like that, the question was, how do I know what I'm supposed to do first? Well, to know, you have to understand order of operations. If you have a fraction, the first thing that you need to do is, well, it's b, it's going to be plus the 5, and then it's the entire b plus 5, it's the entire thing, all of that being divided by 7. That's all I'm trying to say here. That's all I'm trying to say. That it's the entire numerator, the b and the 5. Then once you know what b plus 5 is, then you divide by the whole 7. So before I continue, does that make a little more sense? Again, the order going forward, what you currently see is that you would take the b and the 5 together, add those up, and then whatever that is, divide it by 7. That's what would happen if you're observing. Like if you knew what b was, that's what you would do. So now we need to know how to work backwards. So everybody, what's the last thing that I wrapped up? Let me actually get rid of this. What's the last thing that I wrapped up? Was it the 5 or what's the 7? What's the last thing? What's basically the first thing I'm going to be looking at? The first thing I'm going to do. Right, the 7. The 7 is the first thing I'm going to take care of. Because remember, if we're wrapping up this present, here's the b. I put it in the box. Then plus 5, put a gift for seed, whatever. And then divide by 7. Close the box and wrap it up. So to work backwards, I see a 7 there to get rid of. To unwrap it, I got to get rid of the 7. Everybody, what operation am I doing to both sides to get rid of the 7? Multiply, right? We're going to multiply by 7 to get rid of that thing. Exactly. We are multiplying by 7. Multiplying by 7 on both sides. Because once we do that, cancels out here on the left side, and we've got ourselves b plus 5 equals 3 times 7. 3 times 7 is 21. And now that we're here, wow, didn't this just become a really, really easy problem? Yeah, because the last thing we got to do here is subtract 5 on both sides. That's right. And so once we do that, boom. Boom, that cancels, and we got b equals 16. And there's our answer. And there is our answer. So once we take a second to kind of just take a look at it, finish writing your notes, do your thing. Is this problem a lot more doable than you thought before? Oh yeah, I would agree too. I would absolutely agree. Because look, I didn't teach you anything different here. All I said was work backwards, do the same thing to both sides, right? Do the same thing to both sides. And so really all this is about, guys, is understanding, okay, if I understand my order of operations, okay, that's the order of operations. Now, what's the opposite? What's the backwards? Just go from the last step to the first. The last step was divide by 7. So what I should do first is multiply by 7. But you have to be able to observe this and understand it. So Right now, you might be feeling a sense of confidence, but as a teacher and also as a tormentor, let me go ahead and flip that on its head real quick by showing you this next one. So let me show you this next one here. That's not the same, okay? This here is not the same in terms of the steps that we'll take. Same process, same idea in terms of like what we're doing, but the way that our steps are going to line up are not going to be the same as the one before. Let me show you why. It's all about understanding the order of operations. Again, I've said this 75 times maybe today, right? Order of operations. It's all about the order of operations. So let me show you how this problem, although it looks different, although you might have the heebie-jeebies, although you might have some drywall ready to punch, same thing, pretty easy. As in, follow the rules. First step, let's map things out. I'm looking for R. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. I'm looking for R. So Jacory, before you feel like you're gonna say you get lost, man, is that correct? We're looking for R? That's funny, Jessica. Yeah, we're looking for R. Now, everybody, what's the first thing that we currently see happening to the R? Is it that -6 that's being added in there? Or is it dividing by 4? Which one is it? Which one's happening first? What do we notice first? Right, it's the 4. It's dividing by 4. That's the first thing that's currently happening that is attached to the R. And then, guess what? Then it's the -6 being added, right? Then it's the -6 being added. Right there. Notice how the boxes are clean. If you were to try to do it the other way, it would not have been clean. Like, let me just show you real quick. It would not have been clean. If you were to try to say, okay, it's the R, and then you got to do like what the heck? And then you would have tried to say that it's then all being divided by 4. That don't look right. I think we can all agree that don't look right. So with that, I mean, hopefully we can agree that that looks like a big no to me. Yeah, no, it's going to be R divided by 4 first. And then you have that -6 being added with the R divided by 4. Again, I'm saying math is meant to make sense, okay? Math is meant to make sense. So everyone, let me ask you this. What's the first thing that you believe we should do to both sides? Is it add 6 to both sides, or is it multiply by 4 on both sides? Okay. I'm hearing you guys out. I see y'all. So the thing is, it's going to be adding 6, because if you take a look, that 4 is all the way inside here. I still got to pass through that -6 to get all the way through inside the box. If I'm trying to get into the box, into this box to get to the R, notice if I get into here, I got that -6 in the way. When I get in here, then there's the 4. So if I mapped it out going forward, divide 4 -6. Then opposite, add 6 to get rid of that, multiply by 4 to get rid of that. It's really about knowing your order of operations. We would add 6 to both sides first, because that's how we would get rid, oops, excuse me there. That's how we would get rid of that. And then we have 5 plus 6, which is 11, equals R divided by 4.
And it's me again, your coach Anderson. Look, you're doing these problems right here on YouTube, but I want you to join me for a live class that's free once a week. I do this because I want to help other people succeed just like you. So if you want to raise your score, sign up for my free classes once a week. They're hosted on Zoom. And on top of that, you'll get my free practice test that comes with video solutions so you can learn from every mistake. So there's no reason not to sign up. So go ahead, get off your butt, sign up here, the link there, somewhere over here. Figure it out, but sign up, and I'll see you in the next class, my ASVAB party people. Let's get back to the problem.
And once we're here, what do we do to both sides again? Multiply 4 on both sides. Thank you. Multiply 4 on both sides. I can feel some of y'all going, oh my God, is he still making us do that? Yep. Suffer now so you don't suffer on the test. Boom. So with that, boom, multiplies by 4, gets rid of that dividing by 4. And then we have 4 times 11, which is 44. And there's your answer right there. The suffering absolutely is worth it, man. I'm telling you, because like when you put in the time and the practice to go over it and over it and over it and over it in practice, it's automatic once you actually take the test. Yeah, this is in the math boot camp for sure. Yeah. And the thing is, in the math boot camp, you got speed drills for this. So you have unlimited timed practice that basically you can reset the questions every single time, get new questions. And then at the end of it, every single try, it'll basically tell you how many you got right, which ones you got right and wrong, what the correct answer was, everything that you need. And then you can reset the questions to get brand new questions for every step of the way. So for those of you who don't know about the program, I'm going to show you another way to do this in a moment. But in the program, from those one-step equations that we did at the beginning of class, there's a speed drill for one-step equations. There's a worksheet, there's a guided practice video, all of that for just one-step equations. There's also a guided practice video, worksheet, and speed drill for two-step equations. For the more complicated two-step equations like these, there's also more speed drills for multi-step equations. It's literally at least 21 activities that you can go through for just solving equations that helps you from wherever you are, from the basics of the basics to the people that want to get those savage level questions that we're going to do tomorrow. So again, if you're in the program, you got to make sure that you're using these resources. It's included with the program. This is like the most affordable program in the world. I know most people are charging like $200 a month. You're only paying like $47 for me, but that's the great thing because I give you way more than you pay for. There's no excuse to use it. It's not just about the classes, as cool as they are. Make sure to use the actual resources in the program. Okay. All you got to do is just log in, hit my courses, and there it is. So, Taylor, go ahead and reach out to me via text. I know exactly what potentially could be going on. It's a quick fix on my end to give you a personalized course. I got you. So let me show you what would have happened 7 minutes before. Crap. Let me show you what would have happened really quick if you would have multiplied both sides by 4, what you would have needed to do if you would have multiplied both sides by 4. So if you would have started off by doing that, what you need to realize again is it's the entire side being multiplied by 4. If you would have done it like that, yes, you're correct. It's, again, you do the same thing to both sides. Let me show you how it's still the correct answer. 4 times 5 is going to be 20. And on the right side, yes, while this will eliminate, remember that it's distribution. Here, that eliminates, but there, that would have been 6 times 4 is 24, but negative 24. So just to really be detailed here, because the last step that you would have taken here is add 24 to both sides. And notice how it's coming to fruition here. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. You're multiplying the entire side by 4. And so with that said, you get R equals 44, which is the same exact as the correct answer. So we gotta be very careful there, okay? Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other.
And before you go, if you like what you saw and you want to raise your score with thousands of practice problems just like that, so you can lower that test anxiety, raise that confidence, go to this link right here to check out the full program. There's a video that shows you exactly how it works, but you're going to get lessons, guided practice, worksheets, speed drills, and everything that you need to feel supported from day one all the way until you pass. Again, I'm Coach Anderson, and I'll see you soon.